All right, check 1, 2. There we go. Can you guys hear me? Is that coming through all right? Just been reconfiguring stuff here a little bit in the holiday season. Just trying to make sure everything's set up again. All right, and let's see, clear that up. There we go. All right. Welcome, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I had to get OBS reconnected. It seems to, every few months, it decides to randomly disconnect from the restream key and everything. So I got to go dig that up and put everything back in. So anyway, here we go. It's a new year, but I'm on the same project. I'm really gonna aim to get this done in the next couple streams here, at least some major strides. I think when we left off, I was working on the head. Let me just go back there and double check on that. But how's everybody doing? How was for all the regulars? How was your holiday? It was Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's Eve, all that good stuff. Everyone have a good time as best they can during lockdown, depending where you're at. All fine. Can't hear me. Cool. Cheers from Italy. Cheers from LA. Italy is beautiful. I would love to go physically, but I've yet to visit it. I've been to Belgium and Germany and London, but not Italy or France or Spain or Greece. Those are definitely on my list, though. And as soon as travel's a bit back to normal, I'm definitely gonna check those countries out. So what did I want to do here? I wanted to flip one of these. So and delete hidden. Can we just do? No, that's not going to be. Is that going to be local if we do it this way? No, still not good. Okay. Well, another easy way to do this. Because I really just want to move that. I want to move the light so it's the same side. So I'm just going to move this. This is like a sculptural highlight, you know, in an eye. It's typically what they would do in the traditional sculptures is you'd add some sort of flat, random call. You'd add some flat little disc or surface in the eye to simulate, to catch the light, really, but also to simulate, you know, a highlight in the eye. Yeah, so just gonna edit this quick. I have a problem. Sometimes my symmetry is messed up. If I do mirror and weld, it ruins the whole model. And when I activate symmetry, both points are not at equal distance. How do I fix it? And why does it happen? Don't understand. What am I doing wrong? Euceris, that's a good question. There's a couple ways. There's a couple things that could cause that. You got to check first of all your model in relation to the world space in ZBrush. So if I turn on the floor here on solo, so like here I'm looking underneath the model. You know, here's the floor. You can see like this head is not centered, right? So then anything I try to do in symmetry is going to be weird. Even if I do local symmetry, it may not really play nice. So you want it to have something like this to be world center, right? So sorry for the noise if you can hear any banging outside. I think someone's moving out or moving in, and so there's like carts and things and people talking. So I'll give you an example here. Let's say I want to move this head and all its parts to center. It's not too hard to do. Just do this. I do that. Sense right here. Then I hold Alt. And actually, I don't need to hold Alt for the pizza boxes for the all subtools. But then you want to select just the ones you want. Say I don't want everything to move, not the whole piece up there, just the head. So hold Control and Shift, and then tap on the pieces you want to move. away, holding Alt. And then now I have just the head selected, and if we zoom out, you'll see everything else. It has those like scan line kind of look, and that means they're not selected. So just the thing that looks solid is selected. So now I simply want to hit center of the head, so that little point, and then hit home. And it didn't move everything. Why did it not move everything? It should have, right? It should do that. But does it not home everything together like that? Curious. Does it not like that? It should have moved everything. I thought it would move everything. That's interesting. I thought it would. Okay, well, can just do this. That's weird. I thought it would have moved everything to home in unison. But anyway, here we go. We can just do it the manual way. It's not the most exact, but it's good enough. Let me zoom in here. Yeah, but typically you'd want to make sure that you click home and center whatever object you're working on, and that would help with symmetry. First of all, that'd be the first thing I would check, is make sure that it's centered in the world. And I guess it doesn't work on multiple parts, but it works with your individual part. You click home and it'll center it to world center, like no problem. Let's see how far off I was. Oh, wow, I barely moved at all. So if I tap home, you'll see like a slight pixel shift right there, but it's pretty much good enough. So mirror and weld, that's something that needs to be let's see, mirror and weld is usually, I think that's local, isn't it? Or you can turn it on and off from local. So I'm not sure, because like if I turn off local, okay, let's do another rudimentary example. I could just undo this. So if I have the head over here, and I say mirror and weld on the X symmetry, oh, it can't be applied to multiple subdivisions, that's right. Let's move the skin. Let's do something like the eyes, solo the eyes. So do mirror and weld. So there you go, because it's world center, right? But now if I move it off center, and do mirror and weld, bloop, it's using that world center line as the dividing point for where the mirror is going to happen. So that could be your culprit. But if we turn on local symmetry, move this over, and then do mirror and weld, it's keeping it proportional to the symmetry center of the object. So yeah, local symmetry and mirror and weld should work if you do local symmetry. So then it's looking at the object that you're working on and saying, how do I mirror from the center of the object? So that could be another solution for you. I don't really know your specific model, but you could try one of those two things or three things. So maybe that'll help. Even local symmetry didn't work. Yeah, is it masked? Make sure you clear your mask. That's another good point. If you have anything masked, that could be screwing it up. If you have anything hidden, if you maybe have any geo hidden at all, so make sure you just sort of, do this. Just tap in the hold Control Shift and tap in the document. Make sure that nothing's hidden. That could be a factor. Pardon me while I get a drink of water. Didn't try local symmetry with mirror and weld. Okay, there you go. Yep, try that. It's kind of a process of elimination. If one thing doesn't work, don't despair. Just try something else. There's a bunch of different ways to get things fixed. I'm zoomed in here a little bit, so maybe cut my face off. When you create a character or a whole body, is it beneficial to have the model split into all parts as in separate subtools, or just have it all merged? Sorry, I'm new. Beneficial to have the whole model split in all parts as in separate subtools, or just have it all merged? I mean, it really depends on what you're doing. There's really no like completely wrong or right way to do that. If you're working on a character, I mean, you definitely want subtools for sure. I mean, you want things like your eyes to be separate. It depends to what you're trying to do with it. I mean, do you want to export it into like a game engine, or do you want to just keep it in ZBrush and render here? Even if you want to like render in ZBrush or render in like KeyShot, excuse me, it'd be better to have separate subtools so that you can assign like all materials to, like, let's say you have a bunch of different pieces that are like leather straps or some clothing or whatever, and you know that all those parts are going to use the same material. They're all made of the same thing, so you want them to have the same material. So then you can just make your life easier by just dragging and dropping onto one group of subtools, like one subtool that has all those parts with it. Um, you know, so that might be one way to look at it, is that you might want to have all those parts use the same material. And if you wanted to, of course, have them on one subtool, you want to UV them then on that as one, you know, you'd want to have all their UVs on the same UV space, and then you can just dump your material onto them, and after you've textured it, you know, you can have it use that material, and it makes your life easier because you're saying assign material to all of these parts at once, and it just boom, you know, that's a nice, fast, quick, easy way to do that. But yeah, generally you'd want things separate, like your eyes, your teeth, your hair, obviously, any accessory parts, you know, because you can move them all together using multiple different ways. I mean, you can use the gizmo, you can use a transpose master. Um, you know, there's many ways that you can move everything together. So don't think about keeping things all in one subtool just because you want to have a convenience of moving them around together. You know, ZBrush has made it easier now than ever to move things together so that they stay together. You know, you can also put things in folders. That helps too. Just keep you organized so you don't have to have like a mess of just you know, like, so this new head, for instance, you know, I can just do this. It's red because of the polygroups. So like I said, go here and we go to where's new folder? New folder, and just say new head. New head. So I select the head. Now I just take the hair, dump it there, the eyes, dump them there, and now bam, got a nice little folder I can turn on and off. Let's select something else, turn that on and off, and you can just, you know, have everything nicely organized there. So at least it's not cluttered, and you know where things are, and it's just neat and organized. So that's something else you can always do, make your life easier. Before you take to render it, yeah, definitely want to have things. I think you definitely want to keep things separate. Have you jumped into the 3D Connect Space Mouse yet after they added support recently? No, but I'm talking about it with them. I might be using one of those soon, actually, and so I'll let you guys know if and when I do. I'm excited to, though, because that's definitely something that'll be helpful, and I feel like anything to speed up some navigation, I'm all for it, you know, and not just speed it up, because I mean, you know, using your stylus on a Cintiq is pretty quick, but more so the precision that it offers, right, and the exactness that you can have to rotate on different axes without having to go over here and say, oh, I want to just rotate on the y-axis, but it still doesn't really, you know, doesn't really seem to be as immediate and controlled. So that exactness, bringing some more precision into the navigation and the rotation and the translation of objects in ZBrush is definitely attractive to me. So yeah, the mouse, Space Mouse, is definitely an attractive item for sure. Thanks for explaining. Helpful. Sure. Yeah. Switched over to it and it was pretty life changing. Nice. Sped up my workflow tremendously. Wow. All right. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, no, I mean that'd be great. I think, I guess, you know, I'm right-handed, so I guess I could use part of that with my left hand and combine the two, right? Because I guess you could probably assign some hotkeys to the other buttons there as well, like Control Shift and whatnot, just like with the Cintiq here. I'm using the buttons on the side. Interesting. Yeah. Hmm. All right. Anyway, where were we? So we were on the head. Head. This head. Okay, so yeah, I remember last time I got this in Symmetry, so clean it up and sorry, crazy rotation here. All right, turn off floor. Yeah, so let me see, what is the geo looking like here? Oh yeah, so we did a nice clean topology with this. Sweet. Let me drop this down lower sub D, clean up the neck a little bit. Yeah, whoops, don't want everything selected. make sure to turn that off. Just like Photoshop, you want to make sure you're on the right layer. And like here, you want to make sure you don't have everything selected or certain things masked or unmasked. When you're zoomed in here and you forget about somewhere else that's like masked or not masked, and you thought you're moving something, and then you move something else drastically, and you're like, ah, crap, now I got to go back and unmask that and then redo the whole operation that I did. So always make sure to be aware as much as you can of what you have selected, of what is being moved, what's not. If you know you're about to do, like, you're masking something or you're selecting an area to work on and it's going to be, you know, a long haul, you're going to do a lot of changes. Double check. Always make sure to zoom out and make sure your surroundings that you haven't selected anything else that you don't want to edit, because it'll make your life a lot easier. Yep, you can use the same. It has the same and more expansive versions. Expensive versions have a ton of built-in hotkeys. Cool. Yeah. Sweet. For someone who uses the classic drawing tablets, I guess 3D mouse will slow us down because you have constantly switch your hands between keyboard and 3D mouse. I don't know. I mean, maybe, like I said, if you can do, you know, because I mean, I use my left hand for the hotkeys right now, you know, for shortcuts and for navigation. So, I mean, I would think if I could use another mouse to, you know, because I mean, I play video games a lot. I mean, it's, you know, that's, you know, the left and right controls is a very common thing. So I think your brain could easily adapt to using one mouse for one certain type of function or another, and then your right hand obviously for sculpting, or, you know, whichever hand you use for sculpting, you just alternate. I think you could probably, you know, adapt it that way. I would think that would be helpful. Yeah, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm excited to try it out. I'm very curious. Very curious. So I'm just adjusting this quick because I want to make a nice clean line here. Boop. There we go. All right. Solo. Turn symmetry back on. Just want to smooth out some of these kind of like jaggy edges a little bit so it doesn't look so pointy on the neck. Where's everybody from? Is everybody we've got a pretty international audience here, I think, right? Everyone can people give a shout out? We have someone from Italy. Do we have anyone from London or France or Spain, Brazil? Where's our audience at right now? Pakistan, Italy, UK, Greece. Wow, all right. Nice. London. I love London. I loved visiting it. What's it like in London now? I mean, how's everybody doing with the lockdowns and everything? Are you guys hanging in there? Is everybody pissed? I know that there was a lot of protests going on here and there. How you guys holding up? And how's Italy too? How's Europe doing in general? How you guys doing? Arizona, all right, neighbor. People aren't listening. Costa Rica. Sucks, something called the 5-day. Everything just stopped for a year now. 5 tier. Wait, something called tier 5. Everything just stopped. Okay, for a year now. Wow. Tier 5. Everything just stopped for a year. I mean, that seems crazy. What? How are people like supposed to survive though? How are people supposed to work? Tier 5 lockdown. Jeez. So like, yeah, how are people supposed to survive? Like, how are you supposed to pay rent and you know, buy food and all that good stuff? Is there like in America we have, you know, there's some small business loans here and there, and I mean, they're giving us $600, which is nothing. It doesn't even pay like a quarter of rent for people in California, New York. You know, I mean, it's like we've just gotta keep trying to find work and keep working. You know, it's not like we can depend on the government to give us any help. Um, Food shops are open. Whole something, I guess, country got something called furlough, where the government pays pretty low. Yeah. So they're giving everyone some cash, like on a consistent basis, or just like a one time like thing. Hello from Italy. Hello from LA. Australia. I love Australia. I'd love to visit. I'm a big fan of Australia. It's pumping up a little bit in numbers, but just a thought. You think they're pumping up the numbers of like cases, you mean, or deaths and all that? Or what do you mean? Or like financially numbers, what do you mean? Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a known thing though too. It's like the media loves to just fearmonger. Of course, there's a virus. I'm not like anti anything or denier of anything. Of course, I think I had COVID back in like January through March. It was terrible. Then it turned into pneumonia. Oops, sorry. Um, I had the virus and my body fought it off, but then I developed bacterial pneumonia, and that wasn't fun. But survived that, got through it, and I'm okay. But at the same time, I'm also like, um, it's like people go to extremes, and I'm thinking like somewhere in the middle would be nice. Like if you're sick, wear a mask. Obviously, if you're not sick, then don't. I'd love for people just to be able to get back to life and work and be responsible, for themselves and for each other, and that if you're sick, stay away. If you're at risk, be careful. If you're healthy, get back to work, and operate at your own risk, but hopefully you're smart and considerate, don't go to some big event if you're sick. I wish that people would do that all the time. Like, I don't like catching the regular cold or the flu. Like, I hate being sick in general because I'm a very productive person. So I'm like, can't we learn from this and just sort of find a happy middle ground of like, everyone be, considerate, be smart, be kind. If you're sick, stay away from other people. It's that simple. Don't go to work if you're sick. Work from home. Like, I'd love that to be the norm, so that healthy people are, mostly the ones who are out and about, and the ones who are ill or who are at risk are more cautious, or stay more protected, or protect themselves from infecting other people or prevent themselves from that. Just, it's very simple to me. It's very logical. Um, you know, I think that's what that should come out of this. I'd love to see that happen so that, it makes sense. It's scientifically sound. You know. But yeah, healthy people wearing masks is just dumb. It doesn't make sense. Even the World Health Organization put out a video, saying that. And Fauci was saying that for a while before he changed his tune. But yeah, you can also infect yourself though if you're not careful. If you're not sterilizing your masks and you're wearing them all the time and you're exhaling bacteria, that's how you get bacterial pneumonia, is you breathe in your own bacteria, and if your immune system isn't strong, you will develop bacterial pneumonia or potential other respiratory problems, potentially sinus infection, and then you've made yourself sick. So it's like you can't go to one extreme or the other. You have to be smart and understand how things work, and I think people should be very cognizant of that. I come from a medical background, oops, so I think about those things a lot, and I think there's a lot to be said for the value and being aware of your own health and what to do to keep healthy. We should all, of course, eat better, exercise, get vitamin D, get the sun, you know, take magnesium and zinc. Those are always known to be very good for your immune system. Um, yeah, so I mean, I really would like to see people, of course, become more aware of these things and implement better health for themselves and for everybody else. Um, but I also like to see everyone get back to work because we all need to pay our bills, man. How are we supposed to survive? We don't want to become communist socialist countries where the government just gives us these tiny little drops of whatever, bread lines and like, live in poverty. Like, nobody wants that. We all want to work. So anyway, I'm sorry not to get off on too much of a tangent, but I feel like what I'm saying is pretty rational. It's pretty sound, logical stuff here. I think that most people can get behind. You know, I don't think we all want to live the way we are right now for the rest of our lives. I think we want to get back to normality. Sorry, I'm just checking some settings here quick. I just noticed some of the things here were a little weird. There we go. Anyway, COVID positive in November. Feels bad, man. Yeah, there's time period when you're sick and contagious and have no symptoms. We have no need for sick. Of course, I mean, there's always a small period like that when you are sick and you don't know it. But I mean, that's like, again, that's like saying, well, there's always going to be people who get sick and don't know it for a while, and then they get sick and develop it. We can't all live forever. Like, can we just? That's like, what's the answer to that then? Everybody just wears a mask forever, you know? Because you're never going to get everyone vaccinated unless you force everyone to take a vaccination. So like, there's always going to be that. With freedom comes risk, right? There's always going to be a random chance of like, you choose to drive a car, you could get in a car accident. Choose to drink alcohol, you could become an alcoholic, or develop cancer. There's always inherent risks with taking certain freedom. That's just reality. That's just the world, unfortunately. But I'm saying, doing the best we can is, I think, what makes the most sense. But not, keeping everyone in prison or treating everybody like they have the plague. It's not Ebola. It's not the plague. So it's like, yeah, there's a balancing act, I think, that needs to happen here, and that's what I'm looking at. Some because it's like there's even when you read the vaccine, it's not a cure, right? And they're even saying like you may still contract the virus, you may still spread it for a while. Then you get boosted, but it's like it's not cured. It's not like there's some magical fix for all of this, And so it's like, I think everybody's sane wants everyone to be safe and healthy, of course. But it's all about like what's there's a lot of people committing suicide. There's a lot of sadness happening out there, man. I have friends ex. They blew themselves away recently, and it's like horrible. I mean, it's like there are other real consequences coming from all this. It's not like the lockdown's just the best thing, and that's what everyone has to agree with. Like, I think there's valid arguments on other sides too, where there's a lot of things to be benefited. Like, who wants to live in poverty? You know what I mean? Like, that's not a solution. Not just wanting to, but like some people can't. I mean, it's like some people need money for medication that their insurance won't cover. There's so many variables. I don't want to get too heavy into it, but I would just like to see us get back to back to 2019 days a bit. Anyway, medical background. Why did you leave? COVID would end you. Yeah. My medical background was I was studying biology and pre-med for 3 years in undergrad, and I worked 2 years in an ER as an advanced technician. So I did everything except administer meds. I worked with the trauma team. We also worked in urgent care, or fast care. There's different terms for it, but it's just like, that's the lower tier sometimes. So some days they'd have me on trauma team, other days I'd be in fast care. So I go back and forth. So fast care is like when people come in and they have a cold, right? Or they broke their leg or their finger, not their leg, their finger, or like minor lacerations or scuffs and bruises, that kind of stuff, more minor things that just need quick care. And then like obviously trauma is like level 2 trauma. So that's like, cracking ribs open and people missing limbs and gunshot wounds and all that kind of stuff. So, I saw and did it all pretty much except meds. Yeah, so that's my background. Standard things you study in pre-med, and, is, of course, anatomy, virology, a little bit of neurology. You get a full taste. You get your feet wet before you go in to take the MCATs. So I was studying the MCATs, and that's when I said, all right, it's not for me. Only because I was just getting depressed working in the ER and seeing a lot of people suffer and die. It wasn't fun. The hardest thing was really seeing women and children, especially. it's always really hard watching them pass or seeing them injured. So, that got to me after a while, and I was just wasn't happy. I was getting kind of depressed, and so I figured, I really want to work somewhere and do something that I love, and then I can hopefully inspire people and do some good through. Because I really wanted to affect the world positively in medicine, and that's why it was hard for me to leave for a while, because I was like, convinced that that was one of the best ways to have your life mean something. My young mind, I was 18, 19, and 20 during these years. And it was to, I really wanted to have my life matter. I wanted purpose. And I thought that, I was convinced for a while, like I had to be a doctor. But really that wasn't my dream. I think that was my father's dream. And God bless him, he's a great guy. I think he would have made a great doctor. And I got a lot of, kind words from people too, saying, oh, you have a good bedside manner, you'll make a great doctor, blah, 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 which is very nice to hear, but doesn't change the reality that I just wasn't fulfilled enough. I wasn't really happy. So I left. And, I was already double majoring in my last year and a half in fine art, and with a focus in visual communication and graphic design. So that's what led me to, really mess around with more with Photoshop after a lot of life drawing and classical, traditional techniques. And that's what led eventually from Photoshop into, loving concept art, and the concept art magazines like Imagine FX and others, exposed me to people using ZBrush and dabbling there. And I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. That looks more like, I love 3D and I always wanted to get into it, but Maya just seemed so vertices and menu heavy, and it wasn't as intuitive as like digital clay. And so I thought ZBrush that's what I want to learn. And so I got really sucked in pretty quickly around like 2011, 2012. I think 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. And got pretty serious about it then. And just took some courses online, and then was offered a job working with them, helping them with ZBrush workshops. I started being like a TA, I guess you could say, like a teacher's assistant, kind of a moderator and assistant to the people working on, teaching the courses. And so I really was at the foot of a lot of very skilled artists and masters. That's where I met Paul Gabry online first, of Pixologic, and another legend would be Chris Costa. Did a course with him, and some other really, great artists. And that's kind of where I got my feet wet very rapidly, and sort of really it sped up my ZBrush education tremendously by learning from, having access to all these courses while it was my job to help, moderate everything and organize and do social media for them and all that. A perk was I had access to all the courses and could learn everything I wanted for free. So that was, I was getting paid actually to learn, in a sense. So that was awesome. So that's where I went from medicine to digital. And I was still at the time, I think, before I started working for ZBrush workshops, and before a big art job that I had, working for a design firm for laminate surface design. Just so random. It's like texture work. It's just tons of texture work for furniture, actually, for stones to make things look like real wood and stone, but it's not. It's like poly, like card, like poly, like packed. What's the word I'm looking for? Poly, not carbonate. It's like plywood, basically. You know what I mean? Like stuff you got it from IKEA or like Walmart, like ready to assemble furniture. The things that are like higher end, that's supposed to look like real wood and stone. That's what I worked on for a while at the Japanese company. And that's how I got to tour Europe a bit too, is because they sent me there for trade shows and for learning their proprietary software and that kind of stuff, and their headquarters in Belgium. So anyway, that's where my life kind of led me for a while, and then I got really serious about ZBrush. But before that, I was still working in medicine. Just after the ER, I was like, I'm sick of acute stuff where you just see a patient and they live or die and then they're gone. You don't really get a relationship with the patient. So I moved on to like elderly care. So I did like geriatrics for a while, and worked in like in-home nursing. So I'd like take care of like, some really great people. The last one I had was like a politician's father, local politician in Pennsylvania. Great people, great family, actually, like really, really kind, genuine, good people. And took care of his elderly father until he passed. And then got pretty close to the family and him, and I was just like, all right, I'm done, over with. So from there, bounced around, did other jobs like, everything. I mean, I've done landscaping, I've done waitering, fine dining waitering, like, good money, but still it's like it's just waitering. waiting tables. Yeah, so I've been all over the map when it comes to work. I've definitely paid my dues when it comes to having done all kinds of different work where you've put in blood, sweat, tears, and you work hard. You do an honest day's labor, man. It's like landscaping is, can be rough. You're just hauling lots of whatever tools and dirt and mud and stone and helping people's houses look gorgeous on the outside. So I've been around when it comes to work. I've done my fair share of things that are not art related while I was working on my art skills and figuring out like what's my medium, what's my style, what do I like, what do I really want to do with my life, all that stuff. It's definitely wasn't just like art school and then this. I didn't even really go to art school at all. It was just a traditional state university. So yeah, so everyone, every artist has their own unique story. Like that's the interesting thing about the arts too, I think, is that no two artists have really the same story. Everyone gets into art and finds their style and their passion in it in different ways. So anyway, sorry I'm probably missing a lot in the chat, but I'm trying to keep things going here. I don't want to get too bogged down in too much conversation. Masks are about not inhaling but expelling COVID particles. Yeah. Where? Yeah. I don't need to get tiny drops. There's plenty of my bank accounts. Super rich. We just need to chop off some. Hey, yeah, that's nice. 1% acceptable losses. Jeez, dude. That's not cool. No, I mean I don't agree with that at all. 1%, like that, they don't deserve any harm necessarily because they're wealthy. There's nothing wrong with people being wealthy because you say that now until like Bernie Sanders, he was like anti billionaires and millionaires until they became a millionaire, and then it was just anti billionaires. People are hypocrites, man. People say shit and then they become rich, and then suddenly, oh, it changes because I'm one of those now. Now, there's nothing wrong with being wealthy, people. Don't be simple-minded, because you could become wealthy one day if you work hard, and then suddenly what? Should we just take from you? That's asinine. That's ridiculous. I think being a greedy, selfish person is very bad, but that's normal for anything. Whether it's you're in the middle of a desert and you're all starving and you eat all the food, or you're going to share the food. That's a good person versus a selfish person. That's a very simple, reasonable discussion. But with money, if you earn money, no one should force you to do anything with it other than what you'd want. It's your property. It's what you've earned. It's different if you've stolen it. Then that's then of course legal terms come into play. But again, that doesn't automatically make it your money or my money. It's still money that has to be returned to whoever they stole it from, if that's the case. However that works. But yeah, but don't be a 1%er kind of thing. It's like it's a really bad argument. It's a really it's not a very I don't agree with that argument at all. I don't think that that's a intelligent argument whatsoever, in my opinion. Because there are many wealthy people who are good and who do a lot of good and who do give a lot of money to charities and to the poor and to the homeless, and they create foundations that help people. I'm not saying all wealthy people are that way either. Of course they're not. People are people, whether they have money or not. It just sort of can amplify who they are at times. So, yeah, so that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, I don't think that forcing anyone wealthy to help people who are not is the right way to do it. They should be generous. I think that people who are wealthy should desire to help people because they have a better means to. They have the means to. But that's not something we should force them to do, because then that just creates resentment, and then you're not helping the classes get along. Forcing anyone to do anything they don't want to do doesn't make them like who's forcing them to do it or who they're helping. It doesn't make them like them more. That doesn't bode well for future relations. So it's not a well thought out argument. I don't think it results in good. Granted, I do think there are a lot of politicians who probably shouldn't be in their position of power because they're not helping people, and they've been elected to do that. And that's where I think, yeah, they should be released from power, however that looks. But again, you got to be careful. It's slippery slopes, we can't just go around and have, too much chaos. We need order, and we need civility and peace. Sometimes though, yeah, there's of course in history there's always been, you know, different calls to action, unfortunately, and there's been bloodshed, of course, and that's history. That's human history. It's world history. Um, those are really unfortunate times. You know, and we really shouldn't long for them. But you know, I hear what you're saying, though. Believe me, I mean, I've had many discussions like this with friends and family about how I think our political system is just not the people who are in power, like the vast majority of Congress and the Senate, are just not helping. They're not helping the people; they're helping themselves, right? Left and right. I think it goes across the board there, and it's disgusting. It's very unfortunate. It's very upsetting, to put it lightly. Um, yeah, and I mean, I'm not sure what the right. How do you fix it? I don't know. I mean, yeah, sometimes things happen. That the people have to help take back the power. But again, that's a discussion for another place and time, I think. But yeah, scary. It's sad and scary. It's rough times, man. People are desperate, I think, and that's not good. I think people need help, and $600 is not going to help the vast majority of people at all, unfortunately. So anyway, um, what printer do I personally use? Couple. Form 2, Form 3 by Form Labs, and have an Ultimaker 3 Extended. Though I've been pulling away from using FFF or FDM 3D printers for a while lately because of particulates, nanoparticulates that are released into the immediate atmosphere when you start using them. It can be very bad for your lungs, actually, and can cause other issues. So, having seen that research and having seen people cautioning others with that, I've decided, especially in this time of year and season with everything else going on, it's like I don't need to increase my um, or decrease my lung health. So I've been staying away from using those printers, or at least definitely not. I haven't used them at all for a while now, and you know, just rather have I'd rather have the smell of just isopropyl alcohol in the room than breathing in, you know, a lot of fine dust from PLA and ABS plastic, which is not good for your. It's not good for you to breathe in, obviously. So, I mean, of course, again, I could wear and have a respirator and a 95 mask, but again, it's more hassle. Just being in the my little office there with that. So rather just you know stay away from that for now. So yeah, I'm just using SLA printers by Form Labs for now, and I love them. They're fantastic. Um, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, yeah, PLA, man. Yeah, PLA. Breathing in plastic in general is not a good thing, man. Yeah, PLA is a bioplastic, so it's derived from corn, but it's still not something I think you'd want to inhale. Um, and they're saying that there's just it's you see again, it's the amount of it and the particulates that come of it. You know, that's a big part of it. So yeah, I wouldn't be. Yeah, having seen what I've seen and read about it, I would actually encourage people to be careful with that. And if they're going to use a cheaper like FDM printer, I would say probably wear a respirator, really, honestly, and keep it in a closed area that doesn't allow the airflow to flow into the rest of your living space. If you can, have it near like a window or an area that you can close a door and open a window so that the air goes out from your FDM printer you know, rather than having it in a common area. So yeah, I read up on that, and it's like again, it's not worth. I don't think it's worth the risk. Um, so yeah. Should you move it farther away? I mean, I would say, you know, move it away from wherever your common area is. If you have a room, like even a closet, I think would be a better place to keep it on a table or something inside of a closet, or yeah, even maybe a cabinet or something. If you have the option, to not have it in the common space where you're breathing the air normally, walking around, you know, I think that's a better idea than having it like in your living room or your room, where you are normally. Like I said, if you can put it in another room where you can close the door and open a window in that room, I think that's more idyllic for that kind of printing. And yeah, definitely. I don't know. Be careful. I mean, there's a lot of people who use those kind of printers and are probably fine. Um, I mean, so far I'm fine. And I've used them for years in the past. So I mean, like relatively, like since 2012, I guess. And I stopped using them probably in the last overall in the last couple years, like 2 or 3 years. I really haven't used them almost at all. And even then, I would keep them away. I'd keep them far away from myself typically. Um, yeah, so it depends. But yeah, I'm getting it's just like sort of yeah with the 3D printing thing. I mean, it's now that we know that those nanoparticulates can get in the lungs and can cause some damage. Yeah, you know, yeah, better safe than sorry. Um, yeah, but again, it's like it's also it's not so much that I'm paranoid about it, but also I do enjoy the quality of SLA prints um, much more. I think FDM has its place though too. You can do rapid prototyping on it relatively cheap, relatively affordably. Um, you know, so it just depends. Mm, yeah, Metal Fusion printer. Yeah, a few years ago, it's a must. Yep. Yeah, yeah, it was isolated. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some printers you got to be careful with, man. It's like you don't want to breathe in some of that stuff for sure. How you would prepare this print for printing on SLA? So, yeah. With this, yeah, I mean, it is gonna be a challenge. I'm gonna cut it up for sure. I'm looking to probably have this piece be about like 2 feet tall. So it's gonna be a lot of different parts. Yeah. Unless depends how things go later this year. I mean, if I can afford to get a Form 3L, then if I can, I will. And then that'll be, of course, this will be printed in much bigger pieces than as whole pieces. Um, but even so, even when you can print large, you don't necessarily want to print things whole. Like it doesn't necessarily mean I want to print his whole part and her arm together as one piece along with wings. Obviously, you'd probably want to do the wings each on their own, and then his. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like perhaps, excuse me. Perhaps his. Maybe I might make a section here for the arms. I'm not sure. Um, Either I might make a segment here along where the muscles, have creases a bit, or uh, yeah, just depends. I don't know. Um, yeah, cross the bridge when we get to it. But yeah, I mean, how would I segment it? It's still up in the air, but again, making logical breakpoints is always the smart way to go. Even if you're printing large, even if you have a large printer, again, like I said, you don't want to print everything necessarily as one piece because then you have tons of supports in different areas. And so if you can make your life easier by reducing the supports by segmenting parts and then snapping them or gluing them together, and then just working on the seams, hiding them with a little bit of either like doing the like laser welding, is where you take a thin layer of resin and you use a handheld 4 or 5 nanometer wavelength laser, wear your goggles, and then you can just blast that and solidify that. That's one way to really create a smooth, super clean area. And then you just do a little light sanding perhaps, and you've literally destroyed the seam. You've made it invisible because you've created covalent bonds between two halves with the same plastic and the resin. So you're literally creating a whole piece there, basically. You know, you're eliminating that seam altogether. So that's pretty cool. So there's certain techniques you can do that you just can't really do that necessarily. You do it well anyway with PLA or ABS. You know, when you're doing other kind of printing. With FDM printing, that's not really feasible. You could try to melt the pieces together, but you'd have to use putty, you know, and paint over it, that kind of work to hide a seam. So, you know, really depends on the piece and what kind of plastic you're using. So sorry, I can't really. It's not really any tips there on this exactly. I mean, it's something that we'll cover when we get to the point when things are, you know, sculpturally finalized, and then we're going to start, you know, breaking up different parts. Gives you a Greek vibe, yeah. That's the idea. What would be your workflow for shoelaces? Implement the peg system in ZBrush as well. By the peg system, do you mean like just have like inserting parts like a decreased pyramid kind of shape and another receiving end, female part like that? Or is that what you mean by peg system? I also devised like a snap pin system where you have two female ends and then an adjoining pin, so it sort of joins the two parts together, and it has like two pressure points and they snap together. And that's a cool thing I've worked on too for my Raptors and some other pieces I've done. The other Cupid Psyche piece that I did, the original one, uses that snap pin system to put all the parts together. Yeah, I mean that's one way is with the peg system where you have to put glue in there and you just press it together and hold it until the epoxy or glue or whatever your adhesive solidifies, hardens, cures, whatever the right term is. That's one way. I've also really enjoyed using my snap pin system that I've figured out because then you can do it without glue. And then if you don't really make it, but you can take it apart, but when you snap it together, it's still firm, you know, so you can always go back and forth usually. But once you've said, all right, I'd like the look of this, then you have the option of like you can put it together without it being permanent, and yet you still have your your parts there. And then I'll probably show that on here so you guys can see what I mean when I'm done with it, when I'm at that stage. But the other system, the peg system, you're kind of like you often can't assemble it without glue, and then if you want to take it apart again or check something or whatever, you have to put like just that right amount of glue where it's enough to hold it in place, but not enough to stop you from pulling it apart, and that's just more of a headache. So it really depends on what you want to do, who your client is, if you're working for someone else. There's all those variables there. Yeah, so it depends. I've been doing the peg system for another project I'm working on for another client currently, simply because I know that there's only one way things got to go together, and it's I've even created a system where the pegs kind of have slightly opposing angles to the way a structure. So this one piece I'm working on, without really giving away too much, it's like it's kind of an upside down, like an A shape, sort of like a tent shape, that stands on its own like that, and they lean into each other. So if they're leaning into each other, and have pegs that face downward into each other's parts, so they interlock, and the gravity, it's pulling downward, they're pointing toward each other, and there's pressure points going this way, like going against themselves. So it really creates a strong, just gravity and the natural weight and position of the piece is creating a natural opposing forces. So it really keeps it together even without any glue or snapping. Of course, you pull it in a different direction, and it could easily just fall apart. But that's one of these kind of clever ways to, where the design of the piece was already designated as a certain way. So then that allowed me to play into that by creating pegs in a certain direction where I can preview it assembled pretty much without any glue and without any snap pins, just using the peg system. So it's just about, counter forces. But that's a unique scenario. You could do that in some of these pieces. Even on this piece, I could probably do that actually. To do it like with the wings and some other things to hold them up. But generally, I think, it just depends. It depends what your choices are and what your methodology is. Yeah. So anyway. So where were we on the head? Just trying to figure out with a new head, like where do I want his eyes to look? I just feel like he should be looking up a little bit more. Where was the other head here? Yeah, it's not much different. At this point, it's almost like, yeah, I could tilt the head up a little bit more. Maybe pull it back a little bit too. Move the neck accordingly. And then the eyes would have to be... Oh, whoops. Yeah, so this would cause much more... can't make his neck too long. Yeah, there'd have to be an adjustment here for the neck. Thank you for clarifying. Sure, man, no problem. Looks creepy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, with the neck like that, yeah, it kind of looks a little macabre. Now it looks a little short. Yeah, it's always like a little bit of a task to get things looking right when when they're not connected. But it kind of helps from the back, like just knowing about the that's about the right. It's about the right distance from the head to like the shoulder area. So that looks right. So then here it's just a matter of kind of, you know, like maybe I'm wondering, like, should I bring the chest out a little bit more, maybe? But then he feels pretty stretched as it is. So I don't know that I can do too much more with the chest. But you know, kind of straightening things out a little bit more. I don't know, thinking about it. But you know, that has a chain reaction to everything else. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Do I categorize this as stylized sculpt? It's kind of like a on the fence, I think. You know, it's sort of stylized. I mean, it's not. It's going for more realistic than stylized for sure. But you know, you look at classic Greek sculptures and Roman sculptures, and you know, just all the work you see all over the Louvre, and it all has a certain stylized feel to it, but it's not. The word stylized doesn't apply to it the same way that we might apply it when you look at you know, you say stylized, I think that brings up a lot of ideas and pictures in people's minds of, you know, more cartoony, you know, more animated, sort of friendly kind of Pixar-y or, you know, CG animation characters, cartoony characters. So, you know, it's weird. It's, yeah, I think it still falls, you could fall under that category of stylized, but it's such on a different, if you're thinking of a Venn diagram and you have all these common different cartoon characters, you're going to see this as like Greek sculpture and that kind of style is its whole other thing. Um, so yeah, it's sort of it's a weird kind of genre mix. You know, it's not like it's one particular type of stylization. I don't know. It's its own style, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, it leans way more toward realism than stylization, I guess. that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. I really haven't cared to put too much thought into that. Oh, autosave. Fluffy panda. Alrighty. If anyone else has any questions, feel free. I love going to art museums, though. It's always fun to see masters' work. I keep thinking back to one of the last museums I went to that had classical sculptural work here in the LA area was I said the Guggenheim, Getty. They had some pretty impressive sculptures there. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it looks really. It looks like he has a goiter. Like he's just got some gouch or something. What is that? What is that called when you got like the goiter, right? It looks too bulbous. It's got to be a lot more thin, and I probably need to. It's like it looks right from the back, but it looks weird from the front. I guess I do have to bring up the chest a bit. It's like up and out. Like he's inhaling a bit more, I guess, or like this. Someone's asking, you sculpt every part as a different part and then merge it. In this case, yeah, I mean this was piecemeal together from our previous piece, and so I was kind of taking from that and putting it together. So this is more of like a kit bashing kind of form. Normally I would have the head and the body kind of all together, but this is unique, kind of a unique scenario. So this isn't my normal workflow, but I'm making it work, dealing with I got here instead of starting from total scratch. Um, yeah, I'll be merging things together probably through Dynamesh or maybe through just ZModeler, just closing closing holes that way or bridging two holes, that kind of thing maybe. Um, if I want to make a model, do I have to know whether the object should be grouped or not? Not sure what you mean by do you have to know if the object should be grouped or not? I'm not sure exactly. What do you mean? Uh, you mean as far as like multiple parts together are the same or not? I mean, every piece is different. you'd want to just, you know, if you have an idea in your head of what it should look like, if it makes sense to have those parts be separate pieces, you know, separate objects that are floating just, you know, apart, you know, just intersecting but not bound, not welded to each other, then do that, you know. But if it's something like this, where this would be really, it would be better to have it all be one piece. It would just be better, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, that would be where you wouldn't intentionally start with separate pieces if you had the option. I didn't really have that option, so I'm just making it work. Uh, in your case, if you're starting from scratch and you're just starting with a base mesh or nothing, you know, just creating your own mesh, yeah, start as one piece. You know, you can always start as one piece and keep it convenient that way. And then if you want to break it up, you can always do that. Duplicate your mesh, keep a backup just in case you were like, oh no, I wanted to do one piece in the end, or I want to go back and change something that would work better if it's all one. You know, just easily duplicate your mesh at one point, put it down in your stack, and just turn off visibility, and just do it that way. You know, that's a nice way you know, to manage you know, how you go about working on an object that might need separate parts. You know, clearly other things like, you know, things that are accessories like this, you know, you want that to be a separate part. Or like his guard here, you know, this was separate, but then it's now fused to the arm, and I'll just sculpt in those lines to redefine its shape, because I knew eventually it would have to be fused anyway. So I think that's why I just went ahead and did that. But yeah, it's a little like muddy here. You see that? It's a little unclear and crappy. It's a little too smoothed out. And you can tell here what due to the geometry. You can see how there's edge loops here, and then it does a weird separation. I guess it looks like I had creased, but then I guess I didn't complete the crease or something. That's disappointing. But whatever. But yeah, this isn't subdivided at all. This is like, or it's once, yeah, but like, there's barely any difference. So, you know, this will be touched up later. I can just touch it up now, but all I'm doing is just using the /3 brush and then using smooth to kind of bring it back a little bit, because I think it might be a little too strong, a little too large. The eyes, you're asking, should I sculpt the caruncle together with the eyelids, or it's a separate part? And then the center black part of the eye, you mean the pupil, should I close the mesh or leave it open? For pupil, I mean, I guess if you want to be realistic, if you have the whole eyeball on the back as a sphere, you could just cut a hole. You know, you could just delete the center circle, the pupil, or you can just push it in. Extrude it inward a bit. I can show you what I did for this guy, but this is going to be printed, so there's a little difference here in that you can't have open faces. So in this case, if you're talking about just rendering something, yeah, you can just delete this center piece right in there, this area, and just get rid of it. But in my case, since this will be printed, things have to be solid, meaning they have to be closed off, right? This couldn't be open here in the back. But if you're rendering it or animating it, no problem. Who cares? Unless, of course, it has a problem with the way it would render. So it depends if you want to render it, or you want to, I'm assuming you want to render, not print it. But if you're printing it, yeah, you gotta have something closed off. So even if you push this all the way in, that's fine, but it has to be, you know, manifold. Render. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I can just delete that and just you know, because that's how the eyeball naturally is, you know. But you want to make sure you have a back to it, so it doesn't just go into an open area where there might be some weird light leakage or something might happen, and then you get some weird light coming out of the pupil, you know. But there's always a risk of it reflecting awkwardly in the pupil if you have it too close to the front of the eye, too close to the surface, essentially. So yeah, just delete it and let there be an empty gap going into the eye, because that's essentially what the eyeball's like. It's filled with fluid, but there's obviously a hole that lets light go into the retina. Yeah, so the corruncula, I mean, it depends again. You could have it be its own little separate part, or you can just sculpt it here, and then how close you're gonna get to the face. Is it gonna get so close where you can see a difference between the do you want to I guess it's like, do you want to have a separate material and have this be a separate piece that you could then just assign a wet looking shiny material to it, or do you want to keep it as part of this, but then if you get close to the eyes and you want to make sure that it looks moist, you're gonna have to use a map, like a specularity map, and just have that be whatever, white, I guess, almost all white, to be your very reflective, shiny, wet looking part of the eye. And then do the same thing for almost, or just do what a lot of people do, is they just add an extra ring or a half ring of, for tears. Just have a little extracted like slip of polygons, like a tube almost, just at the bottom there, conform to the shape of the eye, so it looks like there's, some tears in the eye slightly, just enough moisture, at the base of the lower eyelid. So there's, you've got some options there. For the wings, you sculpt direct, or do you use different parts with Boolean or something? What kind of workflow you prefer for that kind of details? It's possible to export my object with the material and color, add in ZBrush to Unity. I don't know. I haven't really, it's been a while since I worked in Unity. It's been a while, but I don't think there's any way to really go directly from ZBrush to, well, not materials. I mean, materials really don't transfer out of ZBrush to anywhere except kind of to Keyshot. So that's the only place where you're gonna be able to kind of like push some of the material stylized look of things, or how we have it in ZBrush, and have it received anywhere else will be only in Keyshot. Excuse me. Otherwise, yeah, no, you're gonna have to you can just bake out your maps from ZBrush if you want. Although I would recommend, it's interesting. I might recommend doing some of your maps in ZBrush depending on what you want, and then doing the large amount of them in Substance. Though you can do pretty much all the maps you want and get them really, really nicely out of Substance. So I'd recommend using Substance Painter to bake your maps. I feel like it's a bit faster too, but I guess it depends on settings, because I remember baking out some was it displacement? Like, it can take forever to do really high in displacement, but I guess it can too in Substance if you're just doing like really crazy dense high detail work. It'd be interesting to see someone comparing and contrasting the quality of maps with similar settings from ZBrush and from Substance when it comes to like displacement, normals. I found that the normals, for some reason in ZBrush, maybe some of my settings are off or something, but I found the normals that come out of ZBrush are really weak compared to the incredible definition and range that you get out of Substance. You can just tell even by looking just at the color range of the maps, the strength and the clarity and the crispness you get out of the normal maps from Substance seem to really be a dramatic difference and better quality. Unfortunately, sorry to say this, than the ones that I've baked out of ZBrush. But maybe I just need to punch up my settings in ZBrush a little bit more. But yeah, it just felt like in general, it feels like I get out of the box, I get really nice, well-defined, normal maps out of Substance that ZBrush just feels more faded. It feels a lot less, a lot less rich, I guess you could say. Oops. Just want to change my music here quick. Sorry. There we go. Sorry, is it possible? Sorry, you were asking with the other question was about the wings. For the wings, you sculpt direct. So these wings I've taken again from my previous work on this piece. And even then, I didn't go to the insane level of detail that I did with my Trico statue. So with my Last Guardian piece, this is all. Let me blow this up quick for you guys so you can see. This was all 3D printed on the Form 3. And here you can see like the feather detail. This is still on the supports, so it prints like this. So here's the resin, and then this comes out of the resin. Thousands of layers at a time. But you can see kind of the detail you can get, printed from the Form 3 and what you can do with wings. So I could go to this level if I wanted to, and I could maybe even I've toyed with the idea of taking these wings and then re-sculpting and manipulating them to be used in this piece. But you can see these are all separate pieces. These are all separate meshes, that were inserted and then welded together to the underlying skin, or base of the wing. Sorry, it's backwards on my screen. So, to get this kind of, anatomic accuracy is anatomical accuracy, yeah. Sorry. It's a lot of work, I mean, it's hard to see on this video, but there's even ridges, like you can hear this. You can hear the ridges in the feathers. So if you go on my site, you can see some better pictures of this that you can zoom in on a little bit more. Sorry, it's kind of low light here, but anyway, one of the feathers broke off from a trade show. This was taken around a lot, and I just haven't printed more. So anyway, that's an example of what we can do with feathers and wings, but that's really taking it to an extreme. That's taking it to like bananas crazy level detail, and that's where I like to go with certain pieces. But with this one, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to try that. Plus, there's also the other factor I'm forgetting that I just remembered is that the wings are holding him up. Essentially, they're a part of a tripod, right? It's the two wings that are they're thin as they are, and that would be even thinner if I went that direction. And then his arm with her arm, him holding her, pulling her up, is actually supporting, the weight of the piece that'll be, his body. So that's something to consider for me. So I think I'll probably lean with the wings that I have now, and maybe just add some insert feathers to be like separate little pieces that are pulling off, but keep the thickness that's here for now, because that'll give a lot more support. And this is almost overkill at this point, I think, because this will be hollow. But this will allow the wings will allow to uphold his form, so that he can look like he's suspended in the air and pulling her up. So yeah, I'm probably, the wings are still like, everything's kind of like, it's still in progress, obviously. And so these feathers were just sculpted into this quickly, and I think I'm really gonna punch everything up a bit. So I might even still just add some of these feathers and just lay them on top of this and let some of them peel off a little bit. So you can see that there's separation. But again, it's like a borderline of like, how much do I want to go into hyperrealism versus keeping it still in the sculptural, like marble looking style, like as if it was carved out of stone. And that's where it's like, if you get so hyperreal, yeah, I mean, you can do some pretty incredible things with stone. I've seen people like do, I forget what the name of the piece is, but there's this one that has a net. It's a net, like a fishing net. That's, I mean, the cable, the rope, the twine is probably as thick as my finger, maybe, or my pinky, index or pinky. But it's still like, it's still very, to think of stone, like it's like probably a little bit thicker than these Christmas light wires as a whole band. Incredible piece. I forget the name of it. You can look it up though. I'm sure you could just Google, to search for marble sculpture with netting or something. You'll find it. It's incredible. But that's insane. So you can get insane details from stone. I mean, they have been able to achieve that. But anyway, for all that to say, like, do I want the feathers coming off of this thing to that degree? I don't know. It's a lot of work, and I'm not sure it'll kind of break from the rest of the style. I don't know. Something I'm still debating. So I don't know. Chinese substance, cool. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. No worries. Oh, can we have a link? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Forget, so many people here probably first time or new, or I try to mention my site every stream, but my site is lion-arts.com. So you can see my work there, and Instagram, I'll post all kinds of stuff. trying to do a bit more streaming on Twitch. I didn't really do almost any during the holidays. I was pretty busy during the holidays actually, though. I had some great. That's Instagram, by the way. Pretty busy during the holidays actually, and still working on a few projects right now that I had to finish up that started back from like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and they're big projects, so they're taking a while. Others were like rush jobs, stuff for some upcoming commercial work. You'll see some stuff in Super Bowl that I worked on. It's pretty cool. Super Bowl commercial. Yeah, so some projects. There was stuff that kept me busy for sure. Definitely was blessed to have some work come in right when I could use it. Because it's been dry, man. This year was for me was pretty dry this past year. So definitely looking forward to more work kicking up here soon. It looks like a lot more places are going to be hiring and looking for different artists to come in. So yeah, I think I should be joining up with some other people here hopefully shortly. But if anyone out there is looking for a good 3D artist, let me know. But yeah, so it's been busy. But anyway, 0.5 seconds fast. Your audio is like 0.5 seconds fast. Are you saying like it sounds faster, or are you saying it's out of sync with the video? I'm not sure what you mean by 0.5 seconds fast. Another question, sometimes when I merge two subtools together, the mesh doesn't connect. Don't know why. Oh, well, when you say merge, so when you're saying merge together, do you mean, are you Boolean, are you Dynameshing, or are you just merging down? Like, what are you doing to merge pieces together? The release from Deception is the statue with the net. Oh, cool. Nice, yeah. Hello from Barcelona. Cool. Hi. Hola. Pedro. ¿Cómo estás? Like it's out of sync. Oh. Not sure why. Unless there's some settings I changed, maybe. I don't know. Good question. It's weird. I wonder if it's a filter I have on the oh, there we go again. It's weird. Sometimes I have to tap to like release the mouse from that. It's strange. I have a filter on this thing. I wonder if that's noise suppression filter. I wonder if that's affecting this at all. No, it's just standard though. It's not like any extreme. Yeah, for you it's great. Okay. Hear the audio before your mouth moves. Huh. Metal Dragon. Maybe try reloading the page if you haven't yet. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Because other people on Twitch are saying it's okay. See the net's crazy. Yeah. Sync's okay for you. Okay. There's a setting if you're using OBS. I can't remember. Yeah. I don't know, but everyone else on Twitch is saying it's good. So maybe it's maybe just reload your feed. It might be just something in your connection, perhaps. Sorry, definitely would fix it if I could, but it looks like it's okay for everyone else. So yeah, we got the last like 30 minutes here. Sorry, not a ton of progress, but it's again, doing good work is slow. Plus we're talking a bunch. Live, perfect. For you, it's good, Pedro. Alrighty. I don't know if you can hear that. My dog is dreaming. He's like barking, yipping in his dream right now. Sleep talking, sleep barking. Yep, it's going through. That's my dog. He's next door in the bathroom. He's laying on the cold linoleum and he's just sleeping. Just. I love dogs. See, I don't think I have a long neck, not compared to this dude. It feels kind of long, but I don't know. I don't know if I should. Still debating like how much I should bring things up here and how much I should bring his head down. Because it looks good from here. I mean, like hair length, you know, taking that into consideration, it looks good. Let me take off the wings. Maybe that's screwing up my perception of things. I mean, yeah, maybe it can come down a little bit. I think probably maybe what's throwing me off a little bit is his trapezius is pretty built, and that looks almost like, you know, kind of gives it this look like no neck kind of thing. I think I might have to like maybe drop down those muscle groups a bit. Maybe that's what's throwing me off. That might be it. I don't know. It's a weird balancing act. Excuse me. Plus one arm raised also compresses everything there. So I mean, like with that going up, yeah, you really got this needs to be tighter still. Like this has really got to be kind of bunched up even more. Let's see what else. I merge down on the subtool palette, and sometimes it works, sometimes not. I don't know. Okay, well, if you're merging down, that's not. You have to understand, merge down just means you're combining two tools together into the same space, but you're not. It's not welding them together. So there's a big difference, right? If I merge two things down, let's say like I have two rings, just so I can show you guys on the video. You have two rings, you merge them together, they're here, or maybe they're even intersecting. You merge them down, there's going to be the exact same thing. It's just they're still not welded. They're still separate. You know, so like I can give you a better example would be to show you with like a sphere here or something. So like, all right, we have one sphere. I'm going to duplicate it and just pull it over here. Okay, two parts, two spheres, right? Put this top on the top. So if you just merge down, so let me put this differently, and that one's. Oh, it's not derp. Make polysphere. All right, sorry. Starting over. Delete that. All right, so is this a polysphere? Yes, it is, right? Okay. All right, duplicate. Let's try this again. Okay, so we've got these two things, different groups, so you can tell. And I want to merge down, but you want them to be connected, right? You want them to be fused together. That's the thing. So if you merge down, say okay, we've got two objects here, but they're not welded, right? They're not connected. So you can see here, if I hit smooth, you know, yeah, it'll affect both of them, but they're not welded together. And the way you can tell easily is, you know, select your gizmo, control click on any of them, and now I can just pull this one away, and you see they're not connected. So they're not fused, they're not welded together. So the vertices aren't connected. So they're really just two objects floating in three-dimensional space together. But they're not fused. If you want them fused, you got a couple options. First of all, if you have them separate, so we can separate them again by doing this and split hidden. So now we have them separate again. A couple options. So with two separate objects, you can do what's called a Boolean operation, right? So that's going to fuse these two together. So go with me down here to this little option which says Boolean. See this button here says make Boolean mesh, but it's not available. It's grayed out because you have to come over here and turn on live Boolean. So live Boolean will show you what things will look like Boolean together in real time. Meaning right now they're fused together so nothing looks different. But let's say I wanted this one to cut out, subtract from this other piece. You just come over here to your subpalette and you got these other little grayed out buttons. This is a solid button, which is like two parts would be merged together. This one is to remove. So this one now has a half moon shape, which means it's cutting away from whatever else it's interacting with. So now you can see here, it's sliced out, but it's only live, right? So it's just showing you like what it will look like, but it's not at all done. So you can see I can pass this through, and you can see how it's going to be like cut out by the other one. It's being affected by the other one, showing you what it will be like if you say finalize, right? So, but let's say we want to add them together, right? Or you can create an intersection. So wherever the two, like a Venn diagram, if two things are intersecting, you want this one to be the one that designates that it creates whatever's in between their, whatever's in between the two spaces, that's what becomes a mesh. So now you have this little flying saucer. You got this little dented UFO. So, but we want them to be fused together, right? That's what you're talking about. So you want to merge them together. So when we say merge down, you're just putting them in the same subtool. It's like putting them in the same folder. They're not glued together. They're just in the same folder. It's the same idea. That's all they are. So if you want to Boolean them together, you go here to make Boolean mesh. It'll calculate very quickly and create a union mesh. And now we've got this. It'll usually be like your first left, bottom left subtool here in your subtool palette tool section. I forget what the terminology is for that map, or the sorry, I'm tired, the tool palette area there, subtool selection. Anyway, so now you've got your subtools merged together. So now when you hit smooth, and you can see the change in vertices here, you can see that they're actually connected here, right? You can tell that obviously where one is from the other by the polygroup difference, the color. But this is one operation. That's one way to do it. All right. Okay, so anyway, so then the other one is Dynamesh. So then in that case, you do want to merge down, but merging down is just step one. So you want to say merge down, because Dynamesh won't account for other subtools. It'll only account for, the one you're on. So now they're intersecting each other, but still, again, they're separate. So there you go. So you want to come to geometry, and you want to come to Dynamesh, and then you want to say, this doesn't really matter in this case, obviously. We don't need subpixel, subprojection. Resolution, whatever. Resolution is always directly correlated in relation to the floor. So right now they're rather large compared to the floor. They take up a fair amount of space on the floor, so you don't want to put this too high. 400 should be fine. So now we say Dynamesh, and like that, bam, we're together. So now, yeah, dense. It's crazy dense as it is, but now you can see here when you come to the intersection, they're welded. Again, smooth it out and see that their vertices are together. They are one and the same. So now that's merged together in the way I think you're looking for. That's Boolean together in another way, but Dynamesh creates a very dense mesh in general. You can get it to be lower, but it's not going to be, the higher the density, after a certain point, it'll be just adding geometry. It'll just be adding polygons uselessly, Like in this case, this is way too many polys for the shape. But if you want to keep something really round and smooth or really detailed in Dynamesh, you usually want to go for high fidelity, high detail, high count in your resolution, and a larger scale in proportion to the floor. So, there's that. And, I mean, is there another way to do this? I think these are the two primary ways you would join meshes. I mean, another way, this is another option, but wouldn't make sense for a lot of cases. Some cases it would. It really depends. So I'm going to delete this, because that's your Dynamesh option. You got that. The last other trick we could do, if you want to call it that, let's say these are two, let's split this apart. Let's say these are two separate meshes that we want them to connect. But let's say we want to create like a bridge, we want to connect these two like this. We want there to be a little like stopgap or a little like flat area before they connect. So a cool way to do this, you have to merge them down again. So I'm going to say merge down. So now they're in the same space, but they're obviously not welded because we see this gap between them. You come to your Z-modeler brush, and you say, I want to bridge this gap so that they're joined by like a tunnel, basically, of some kind. So you want to come here to your edge, hold space bar, and then you want to come down to over here to bridge, and you want to say not an edge, because an edge would be from edge to edge. That'd be, you'd be doing one edge at a time, you know. Now you want to say 2 holes. Say spline, that's fine. I'll leave all the other settings as default. So click on your first edge here, and it's going to look at the whole hole, the entire hole, and say, okay, it's going to follow that edge loop the whole way around immediately. And now we say that's hole 1. So now we're going to say here, it says, you can see bridge 2, click second hole, and drag to reshape. So if I tap it, bam, now it's created a nice bridge between the two, turn off the floor, between the two. So if I smooth it again, there you go. They've been merged together now in another way. But let's say, for whatever reason, you wanted more edge loops in there, or you wanted some other kind of change. I believe if it's just hold and drag, it should add that. So again, we go click first hole, click second, and drag. Yeah, so if I go left, is it left and right, or maybe it's relation to the mesh? But see, if I'm holding still right now, so I clicked and I'm still not letting up. So if I go upwards, it's adding a lot more edge loops in there. If I go down, it's reducing it to like just 1. So you can increase and decrease your edge loops based upon the default settings when you do bridge 2 holes. So this is a great technique. I use this a lot. I love it. It's super handy. So there you go. So there's 3 methods you can use to merge 2 parts together. And there's a lot of variables you can use within there too. So explore each of those techniques if you want to figure out how to join 2 parts together to make one manifold watertight mesh of some type. Or even just whatever. Doesn't have to be necessarily watertight, but you're at least closing up, you're sealing up 2 areas here like this. So those are really handy methods to do what you're asking. But those are the only ways you can really merge something down. Otherwise, I mean, I'm assuming that's the kind of merging you were asking about. Sorry, whoever asked that. Just Dynamesh and ZBrush. Yeah, you can ZBrush too, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Boolean options, great. Yeah, it can be very dirty. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you got options. So just sort of giving you guys, for whom asked, giving you the array of choices. And we were at like T-minus like 20 minutes. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So yeah, hopefully that helps. If anybody has any other questions related to that, let me know. Back to figuring this guy's neck out. I think we're looking better. Now, is the head too big? Kind of feels big. I don't know, a little big. I think maybe we could shrink it a little bit. I don't know. What was the other head like though? Maybe it was the same. Did I change? I feel like I changed volume a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, it's a little big. Feels like it's a little big. So one thing that it's like, as I remember, as art students especially, it's like when someone's a young art student and you've been really conditioned by your professors to be very, critique each other's work. And I don't know if you guys had this in drawing class, if you've taken it, but I remember in drawing 2, we would all do our life drawings and then we'd all put them up on this massive wall, and then we would all go down the line, and the professor, our teacher, would critique it, and he'd critique each one and say something, and then ask for the students to also give their critiques. If you have any like suggestions, creative construction. Creative constructive criticism, excuse me. And sometimes students would be brutal and honest, or sometimes it'd be kind of, if they have a personal vendetta against you or don't like you, then they'd say something mean just to be dicks. But you'd often go down the line and critique different things. And I remember outside of school too, these artists, especially meeting like younger students who would go to just art school and then they'd see your work or whatever, they'd immediately give unsolicited criticism and like be harsh, and you're not even done with your work yet or whatever. Like here, they'd be like, this is really wrong, or that's really off, or ooh, this looks bad here. You really need to change that. And you're like, thank you for your unsolicited advice. I appreciate it. Because this comes off as like very like immature and childish, like a little kid just being like, "Oh, you look fat," or something like nearly inappropriate, or just like, "Thanks, man. That's not tactful at all. That wasn't very polite. It's pretty rude." This is funny. Now you got to develop a thick skin after a while, of course, and just take it in stride, or just not care. But sometimes they're right, of course, and sometimes they're not. But it's amazing just how easy it is for all of us, especially when we're younger, to fall into like being hypercritical of everything, but anything visual, especially as artists. I think it's just funny, and it's kind of a shame, because I feel like you come sometimes it can hyper focus a bit too much on the superficial or the physical or the surface of anything, whether it's people or other people's artwork or design or whatever, and it's yet you're not looking at the deeper levels, or you're not focusing on, you have to remind yourself like, hey, that's not, obviously it's not all that's important, but obviously also it's like it shouldn't hold so much weight either necessarily. We all like aesthetically pleasing things, we all like great proportions. Naturally it's like kind of hardwired biologically into us to a degree. But yeah, I just find it funny to think about sometimes how we as artists can become so critical and so focused on minutia and perfect proportions and distance, and it's just, I don't know, I just find it funny, sad and funny kind of together. Anyway, just a personal muse. So yeah, speaking of proportions, I'm just trying to figure out this dude's head size. Don't want him to be Charlie Brown. I don't want him to be I don't know, what was it, like that terrible Mario Brothers movie? I've never seen it, but I've seen clips. And I remember, was it the Koopa Troopas that were supposed to be the Koopa Troopas, or the what were the enemies? The Koopa Troopas, yeah, like the turtle. They have a little head and like this massive body. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other iconic characters that have little heads and big bodies. What was that? What was the alien in Men in Black? Wasn't there an alien in Men in Black that had like a really tiny head and like a giant body? Anyway, I don't know. Never want to go to those extremes unless that's actually what you're trying to do. So like now I feel like it might be a little small. It's like let's go a little bit bigger. Just a little bit. It's amazing how little things can make a big difference. So it's just those little adjustments can change things. Maybe a little bit. I feel like that's acceptable, but I feel like the optimal would be a little bit more. Just a little bit. I feel like that's better. It feels more proportionate. I mean, you could argue maybe it's even on the... I feel that's pretty good, though. I don't know. What do you guys think? Okay. Matthew, take care, dude. Thanks for stopping by. Did I miss anything? Lumillion? Sorry, Daniel, would it be possible to have your UI? I mean, I guess I could upload it somewhere. I never really thought about it too much. I mean, you can always feel free to copy whatever you see here and just, drag it out to be your own. I mean, sure, I guess next stream I can upload it. I can save the file and then upload it to like Dropbox or something and kick it out as a little freebie. Maybe we can advertise that as an incentive to come back next week. Get a free UI. Not much of a giveaway, but hey, if it's useful to some people, I mean, sure, I guess that's a thing I could offer. I mean, it works for me, but again, it's like my needs are always, everyone's needs are specific to their workflow and their style. I'm not sure, I guess if you're you're a 3D printing kind of person too, then this could be very useful to you, because these are all tools that are a little bit more leaning toward, I guess you could say leaning toward 3D printing as a specialty for how things are arranged here. But obviously I work in visual effects a fair amount too, so I guess proportionately maybe I've worked a bit more in 3D printing than visual effects, but it's been really balancing out lately as a good mixture. I mean, I shouldn't say lately, because I mean there's a lot of work I did at like Pixamondo and Shade, and I got to work on my reel. I got to finish my reel, man. I've been working on this thing on and off since before Thanksgiving, since October I think. I've been working on my new reel, and I really just on and off though. I mean, I've been very much off because I get some other projects come in, and then I can't really work on the reel at the same time, and I just don't like doing things half-assed, so I take my time. But sometimes done is better than, or good enough is better than not done, or not good at all, or unfinished. So I guess I gotta get better at that, being a little bit more I don't know, just quick on finishing something and having it be good enough rather than being perfect. All right, I think we're looking good on the neck. I think a better way to tell is to keep things the same color, select something else so then it doesn't highlight the head or the neck, or head or body, and I can just look at it from a distance here, and it looks much better, I think. Yeah, the neck looks more natural. Doesn't look like a extra long neck of any kind. Cool. All right, now it looks a little pinched in here though, but that's going to be something when I fuse these two parts together. I'll be able to fix that. Let's turn on the wings. And let me just double check, because we're in a new year. I want to make sure I'm not going to infringe on anyone else's time. I forgot to double check and make sure that there's no one after me today. So forgive me 1 second as I check the calendar. Me. Why is DuckDuckGo not giving me what I want? Go to Google. There we go. Does anybody have any other questions before we wrap up today? Sleep, bro. Yeah, no one else after me. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Um, we good, guys? Hi, everybody doing all right? Any other questions before we peace out? Yeah, at least we got some progress here on the head and body here. I think we're looking a little bit better. Not sure what the pecs bulging so much. Turn on perspective. Focal length is way up there. Let's bring this down. It's coming together. Slowly but surely. All right, save this. All right. Can you show the concept? I mean, I don't have a concept drawing for this, if that's what you mean. Not sure exactly what you would like. I am M King. You're making, is that what you mean, making? You were making concept making? I mean, this is based off of the previous piece I did, which is based on the original piece by Antonio Canova. I can show you those pieces if that's what you're looking for. The original piece that I made is this one. This is the 3D print. Let me see if I can zoom out here a little bit. You guys, it still wants to fill the screen. Okay, whatever. Blow this up. So this is the full original piece that I did for a masterclass on segmenting your prints for larger build volume. Did this for Ultimaker at Wacom headquarters in Portland. That's just some renders. So yeah, taking this one and just sort of like what would be the progression, you know, of this story. Like where would we go? Where would we go from here? Sorry, that's being blocked by my face. But what printer do you have? Someone asked that earlier. I have 4, but I'm only using 2 right now. The Form 2, the Form 3, the old MakerBot Replicator 2, and the Ultimaker 3 Extended, Ultimaker Extended 3. But I'm not really using the FDM printers much anymore. I should probably give it a go one more time though with some elements, but I have them in another room because I was talking earlier about just how you can breathe in a lot of particulates, that nanoparticulates that people have been saying, studies have been showing are not good for your lungs. So yeah, so I've just been trying to avoid using much of the FDM printers anymore and keeping them in the other room. But I think their hot ends have kind of gotten clogged, so I have to just, I have a butane torch. I've got to just like, you know, just clear them out, and then I can get back to using them if I need to. I still have a bunch of filament that I need to go through, but again, it's just, I'm working a lot in that room on the other printers, and so I'd rather not, you know, I'd rather not inhale all that stuff right now, especially with just, you know, all the other issues that we have coming around right now with COVID and just illness in general. I'd rather not get sick. So I'd rather not get sick again after early last year. So yeah, so I'm just sort of keep lungs as healthy as possible by not doing too much FDM printing right now. But maybe that's a little paranoid, you know. But also it's a lot of work to come blow everything out and clean it all out, and you know. So anyway, I'm just clicking through my work here, some stuff I did. It's portfolio work. Anyway, yeah. So that was the original piece. Thanks for the kind words. Yeah. So all right, guys. I guess this will be it. We're at 4:07. Yeah, save this. Do a quick save here. Thanks for coming out, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have all had a good start to the new year. We are 5 days in now. Yeah, I hope things turn around for all of us, and this year just becomes a better year for all of us. Just hope we stay healthy, happy, and yeah, that we can all make ends meet somehow. So yeah, take care, everybody. Hang in there. Best wishes. And yeah, I'll be back. What is it? On the next Sunday, I believe. So today's Tuesday. Yeah. So next week, Sunday. Same time. Take care. I'll talk to you guys later.